No, you're good. Yeah. Yep. Okay, good. Thank you.
Is it working now? Yep.
Yeah.
That's weird. It's exactly the way I logged in. Okay, so we were on increasing your capacity is going to be required. What do you think I mean by that?
To touch more people than you've ever had to.
Would you think that maybe like you're gonna need to like expand your knowledge a little bit? More that like, I think we've spent the last like 24 months, like just kind of going, dealing with the business that we have, that we haven't really taken the time to like learn anything new unless it was like in a reactionary mode. Like it was because like something was currently happening in your transaction that you needed to know more about. The reality is you might have some more time in your hands to learn some of these things. You do not know everything, and the outcomes of the next year will be in direct proportion to the books you read, the classes you take, coaches you hire, and the time you dedicate to working on your business, not in it. Lastly, I believe we need community and collaboration more than we ever have. It's important, like who is in your corner. Like one of the themes of this last week that I was in the class was proximity is power. And so like the people you are surrounded with matter. And there's just like something powerful about being around people that are doing what you want to do. You just learn so much, even just by like conversations you're just in like an earshot from. And not necessarily in like a direct classroom. Anything else before we get started? Anyone do not agree with any of those truths? They're a little bit of a painful truth in some ways. But I think it's important that we do not bury our head in the sand and think that like things are just going to automatically get better for us. Like this is going to be a market where you are going to have to create what your future looks like. It's not going to be, you're not going to be able to succeed on accident in this market. And as painful as this is to hear, I do not believe you can judge actually how good you are at this job by your performance in the past 24 months. If you didn't do well in the past 24 months, I firmly believe it's because you didn't want to. There are some people that just like they were taking a break for whatever reason, or maybe this isn't for you. So I think that gave a tremendous opportunity for a lot of people to enter the business and get a lot of transactions under their feet that maybe wouldn't necessarily have that opportunity, or it would have been a lot more difficult. And it's almost like they got like a head start on things. So it's just going to be very important over the next 12 months for us to be very purposeful with our time and energy.
Did you see the meme I think Jeremiah posted on Facebook? It was about a guy just sitting by himself on a bench.
Oh, yeah.
And it said something like, this is the guy that somebody said it was a good time to enter real estate. Or something like that. He's sitting there by himself. Yeah.
I think anytime, just like, I think anytime is a good time to enter real estate, because real estate is the one thing, like people need a place to live. It's just, are they going to find that place to live with you? Like the people always need a place to live, whether interest rates or, I mean, we hear the stories now of like people like our parents that bought houses at 18% interest. They still needed a place to live then, and they still didn't want to rent. Like owning a home was still part of the American dream then. I think it still is now. It's still the fastest way to build wealth. But it's just, are you able to get yourself in front of those people? Another broker one time told me, and they were talking about like recruiting agents, but I think this is really applicable when we're talking about lead generation. I was telling her, my old boss was always telling me, you need to find ways to motivate people. And you might think of this thought too when it comes to your buyers and sellers. Like you need to find a way to motivate them, right? To like make the offer or sell the house or make the price reduction. And she said, that's wrong. You do not need to find a way to motivate people. What you need to do is find motivated people. That's more important than motivating people. Because it's pretty hard to motivate people because we don't know like what's on the inside or like their variables or whatever. It's easier to find motivated people. It's just not, or it's simple to find motivated people. It's just not easy. Like you have to actually purposely like do something about it every single day. Okay, so what's a lead? I can't use my clicker with that. So a lead is information on a possible buyer, seller, or owner. But a lead is also a person. It's an individual with an individual set of needs. This is the time, like one of the places we can see us increasing our capacity is like this is a good time to really become a good listener. Some other names, lead generation has been called, prospecting and networking. We're going to talk about the two and ideas within those two umbrellas. And then I will say this, if you have no intention on creating a system to follow up with people you meet while you're prospecting or networking or lead generating in any way, shape, or form, you should just take the credit and like throw this out the window, because it is a complete waste of time. Have you ever heard the phrase that like agents are really bad at lead generating? Have you ever heard that? People say that, like, I'm just not good at lead generating. I think that's actually BS. And I think agents are phenomenal. Almost every agent I've ever met are great at lead generating. But I would say 99% of us absolutely suck at following up. Because we just want like the low hanging fruit, right? We want like the person that needs to be in a house in 45 days from now. And this is the time where we are going to need to build our pipeline for 3 months from now, for 6 months from now, even 12 and 24 months from now. And you can't really do that effectively without a system. So we'll be talking about that too. Okay, so we're going to start with prospecting. Okay, so how many of you have taken any time to really identify who your ideal client is? Amy? Jake? Like what is your ideal?
Well, for me, mostly like VA, because we speak the same language.
Okay.
And I, most of the time, have permission to speak blunt and fair.
Yep.
And there's already that commonality.
And trust,
So,
probably.
trust, yeah. So anytime I get a chance to work with a VA buyer, it always goes smoothly. So that's, if I could do all VA people, I think I'd be all right.
Okay. Amy, what about you?
Mine was just more, I think, like a group of people that was kind of the niche, and it's more of the gym families that come in.
Okay.
And I just see that being more of the niche at this point.
Sure.
because that's where a lot of people are talking about leaving homes, and they've got their young kids, and so that's where I see a lot of
Okay.
just interest.
Anyone else? Ever think about your niche, or you're just like, I'll just work with anybody? I mean, I'm not saying you don't work with anybody, but I think it's like, there's something to like putting some thought into like, who do I actually really love working with? Like, if you think about it, if you've done any amount of transactions, like think back to your transactions that you did, like, what are your favorite clients you work with?
First-time homebuyers.
First-time homebuyers, that's a great one.
I like out-of-state first-time home buyers. I have so much excitement about Alaska, so I find that I do really well giving them all the tips and.
Yeah, I could see that. I probably would not be the right person for that. I've been like counting down, I'm like, when do I get to go back? And I'm just like not a winter person. I don't know why. And I'm like, I've lived here my whole life. Let me share with you guys what my ideal client has always been. It has always been somebody that has a house to sell and a house to buy. And now the obvious reason for that would be like 2 commissions are obviously better than 1, but I enjoy like that, like evolution. Like I enjoy, like, even when, like, I enjoy the challenge of a simultaneous closing. Like, I love being able to make that happen, when a lot of other people say that that's just kind of doesn't work, or it's too hard, or whatever. And I like that you're typically with those people for a longer period of time. Like, my very favorite clients that I have right now, they're actually building a house with our builder, and then I sold their house. There was a gap in the middle, because I was like, better sell your house when you can right now. So you might have to find a place to live temporarily, and their house wasn't done yet. But those are my favorite clients. It's kind of like that move up buyer that has a house to sell. And I encourage you to really put some thought into that if you haven't, and actually start vocalizing it. Like, talk about it. Like, if you're doing videos, talk about that. There is something very magical about talking about things like that, where the more you talk about it, I don't know if it's like just communicating to the universe that that is what you are trying to attract. And it's kind of a miracle how some of that stuff just starts to come to fruition when you actually vocalize what you're looking for.
You're trying to say that what you focus on, you seem to succeed at. So maybe by vocalizing it, you're focusing on.
It was weird because I always thought that, like, in my heart, like, these are my favorite clients I work with. But when I started talking about it, and I think I talked about it in a class one time, and they're like, well, of course you love that. That's 2 commissions. That's not actually why I like it. And I also like working with less people. I think that's why. I mean, I don't mind doing like all the transactions, but I like working with like just a small group of people. Some people are like really people, and they want to meet all the people. I don't necessarily feel like that. Yeah, you're like, no. And, you know, I would love to do like a ton of transactions with like one person, just because I just feel like you get like this deeper relationship from it. Okay. So I always like to, I think this concept actually came from Russell Brunson or whatever, however you say it, is like the concept of the 3 funnels. It's definitely like the coaching program that I work with, Hero Nation. They definitely teach the 3 funnels. And I encourage you guys to actually think about your 3 funnels so that going into 2023, you know what those are. I'm not saying you can't get business other places. I'm just saying a majority of your time, money, and energy should be spent on your 3 funnels. So these are just some ideas. These are not all the ideas. I'll just work through them. We've got like our database, right? I should just wrote database, but database would be like your sphere of influence, people that know, like, and trust you. Your friends, family, if you have a business already established, your past clients, like your sphere, right? That should be a funnel like for everybody. That should be number 1. If it's not, that's kind of weird, and you're probably like a really different personality than a lot of us, and good for you. like some people, you know, I actually had a friend that was in the business, and he was like, I hate working with people I know. He's like, I absolutely hate it. Like, it doesn't hurt my feelings when they go buy a house from somebody else. I don't want to work with anybody I know. And I always thought that was really interesting. He's like, and you probably worked with friends or family before too. And it's hard to like have the real estate professional hat and like the friend hat. Like, actually, some of my worst transactions have been with my friends because it's just hard to distinguish between the 2. Open houses, that could be a source of your business. Lender referrals. Is there anybody doing like quite a bit of business from lender referrals? You don't have to tell us which lender. Yeah, good.
100% of your business.
Yes,
From lender referrals.
that's true.
Cool. There was a time in my career that, you know, every January, I always look back and look at all my transactions for the year and where did they come from. And there was a point in my career where 50% of my business came from one lender. But it takes a lot of work to do that. I mean, that has to be like a purposeful, thoughtful effort. If that is how you're going to work, and it has to be reciprocal, right? A lot of times we do send business to lenders. It's a little bit sometimes more difficult for them to send business back to us. But if that is going to be one of yours, I encourage you to write it down and think about like how you're going to be purposeful about that. Becoming a neighborhood expert. This is one that you don't really see anyone doing this here. And I don't know that you necessarily have to be a neighborhood expert. You could be just an expert in some aspect of the business. Like a great example of that might be aviation. That's a very specific community. I mean, there are some neighborhoods. I'll give you an example of a house I used to live in, Heart Lake Estates. And we had a Heart Lake Estates community Facebook page. And every time I knew quite a few of my neighbors because they did like an Easter egg hunt for our neighborhood. They did like a Halloween like hay ride where one of the guys, he would take all the kids trick or treating all around the like adjacent neighborhoods on this trailer, like this filled with hay, and he would decorate it and whatever, and all that stuff was on there. And so we would do all that stuff with our kids. And I knew all these people, but every single time a sign would go up in our neighborhood, it would say Marty Van Beest. And I thought, so one day I like ran into him and I'm like, hey, do you live by? Because I always thought he lived on Lazy Mountain. And he was like, where are you living? I was like, Heart Lake Estates. And he was like, why do you think I live by you? And I was like, because all the signs are your signs. And he's like, no, I just run the Facebook page. So I started like scrolling through there. And I was like, oh my goodness, he like every once in a while, like he'll post like listings. And so he'll post like, hey, like, do you guys want to pick your neighbor? There's like a new house coming for sale. And he just basically picked our neighborhood and started a community Facebook page, got some contacts in there of activities that they did and started running a community Facebook page off of that one neighborhood. So interesting, I don't have like the exact data on this and I meant to look it up. But one of the speakers from my class last week started talking about a study that they did, and they called like 1,000 people in a town. And they said, who is like the #1 trusted agent in your area? And they gave like, he said there was like a total of like 5 names that got like pretty good like amount of votes. And he said, and then they took those same 1,000 people and they put them into a farming campaign, an 8x8 farming campaign. And they started sending them postcards like of just listed, just sold, of a realtor that was not real. And then 6 months later, they repeated the study, and over 50% of them said the most trusted realtor in that area was the fake agent. Which is alarming, right? It's like, this is how important like top of mind awareness is. And what I mean by top of mind awareness, like I've heard it explained this way in correlation to real estate, is if somebody asks somebody you know, friends, family, coworkers, acquaintances, like, give me 2 names of people that could help me buy or sell a home. And if your name is not one of them, you have failed in top of mind awareness with those people. So you need to really think about that because everybody knows realtors, right? Putting on events and seminars. So does everybody know DeEtte Owen? She's an agent in Anchorage. So she completely built her business, like took it from like pretty like simple low-level business to a pretty substantial agent doing a pretty good amount of production solely based off of holding client events. That's all she did. And she did it because she loved it. That actually gives me anxiety to think about. But she did it off of holding client events, housewarming parties. So if you ever like, sometimes I just saw her advertise it not long ago. She's an agent at Keller Williams, and she did a class about holding housewarming parties. And so basically, when you close, Jessica, she's like, "Hey, I'd love to throw your housewarming party. Are you okay with me?" And most people would say yes. I mean, maybe. And be like, yeah, sure. You know, she's like, all you gotta do is give me your guest list. Pick from these 5 options. Do you want like Mexican, Italian, pizza party? Like, what do you want? I'll provide the food. I'll do the invites. You don't have to do anything. Just give me your guest list and I'll invite everybody and follow up. Pretty like genius, if you ask me. Of course, she shows up to the party. She meets all the people she invited. She calls and thanks them for coming. She sends them, you know, whatever, communication throughout the year, items of value throughout the year. And then they remember like, and they're, I mean, some of them are probably saying like, I bought a house last year and my agent didn't throw me a housewarming party. So she had like a whole system down. That gives me absolute anxiety. That is not one of my funnels. But it could be one of yours. Like, I encourage you to look at these and like, think of something like, you're like, hey, I can do that. Social media, that's one. That could be a lot of different platforms. I think if you're a social media, like if you have like a really strong social media presence, you have to have some pretty strong social media presence on like a variety of platforms. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Sports teams is one I threw up here. I do know quite a few agents that get their business pretty much solely from sports teams. Like what their kids do. Just being involved. Cold calling, that's another one that's like not my funnel. And I don't care what you say about it, it works. It's a numbers game. It's I mean, the conversion rate is substantially lower than like a sphere of influence touch or a lender referral, obviously. You know, lender referral, that's probably, I mean, if you don't have a 50% conversion rate, at least on a lender referral, you're probably not gonna get many more. But you know, cold calling, they say it's like 10%. So like, you're gonna get like maybe 10 people that talk to you out of 100 phone calls. But it's a numbers game. And the thing about cold calling is it's free. It only costs you your time. BNI, that's another one that people have in like right now, you know, is a time of year where people are like reconsidering like things that they do to obtain business. So there might be some BNI spots opening. If that's something you're interested in, you can look into that. I do know some people that get quite a bit of business from attorneys. What kind of attorneys do you think they get business from? Divorce. I really like working with people getting divorced, and I don't know.
I do too.
Do?
Sure.
Which one is the expert?
Thank you. What?
Wow.
What?
I like that they're only caring about the final result.
Yeah,
They're just like, this is the result we want. Like, we're not gonna have you every step of the way. We just want this done.
yeah,
It's like, okay, I can go, I have license, let's go do that.
yeah. And I like it. It's like a challenge or something to like try to get them to like agree for me. Like, I like that. Like to get them to like come together.
Do you find that you take charge?
Sometimes.
Yeah,
I
I just
mean,
wanna
you
maybe-
really have to like assess if that's gonna work for their personalities. I don't know. I just enjoy that. I don't know why. I like enjoy being like kind of like the calm,
The
like
mediator,
the,
yeah.
yeah. I do.
Yeah, that's what I like.
Absentee letters. This is a big one. I actually have a friend in Indiana that had like completely built his business off of contacting absentee owners. So he would like do things, it sounds a little creepy, but like he would find like, and there's a lot of different programs to be able to do this. Like, what is it? Like My First AM is like a data mining software. Remind is one. I mean, you could just go old school and be like, hey, I want to look at Heart Lake Estates and just start clicking on all of those and see whose owner address is out of state. So what he would do is he would drive by them. He would take a picture of their house and he'd be like, hey, I'm a local realtor. I noticed that you don't live in the state. Just wanted to see if you had maybe a recent picture of your house. Here it is. Here's some data about houses that have sold in your area. Like built an entire business around doing that. Online leads is another one. And that could be like a multitude of things. That could be Zillow leads, realtor.com leads. That could be OpCity leads. That could be leads from your Chime site. There's all kinds of other sites coming out. I don't know if any of you guys have worked with UpNest. Actually, I think UpNest is one of the coolest lead generation sites. So you can write that down if you want. And sign up with them. You create a profile, and it is actually a lead generation system for sellers, not buyers. So what's really cool about it is that you can go in there, you could upload your presentation, you can upload video, you can upload voice things, and then they'll text you and say, hey, we have a listing lead in Palmer, Alaska. Are you interested in it? And then you go in there and you say, you have the option to just submit your proposal to them as it is, like what you've already uploaded, or you can customize it as well, like for that specific lead. But I think that's a real, like, I've actually got a couple really good listings from it, and I just wanted to try it just to see what it was all about. I think most online lead sources are kind of garbage, but that one I've had really good luck with. But like, there's all kinds of other lead generation systems.
So how do you pay for them? Is it just a fee?
Upnest is a fee when you close. It's similar to Upcity.
So it's a referral.
It's a referral when you close, no upfront fee for Upnest. Does anybody ever have any other funnels you can think of? Anything that I try to think of like as many as I could think of. It's another place you could get business.
I have a handyman that I work with very regularly,
Okay,
and I probably get a couple of transactions from him a year. And I
Vendor
send him my business too. Yeah.
something like that too. Vendor referrals, what else? So this is my challenge to you today. Pick 3 and write them down. Put them in front of you somewhere where you can see them. And then every time you're like, hey, I want, like, would you guys agree that there is like a ton of shiny objects being thrown at us all the time? Like, try this advertising method, try this online lead, try this, try that. Have those 3, stick to them, make a plan for them. And anything else that's thrown your way that you're like, hey, I want to try that maybe because I'm like desperate and I need some business. If it's not in alignment with one of those 3, get rid of it. Don't do it. Just for the time being. Like, this is the time to really drill like 3 deep wells, not 100 shallow wells. Okay. So ask yourself these questions. How much time are you spending on your business versus in your business? Does everybody understand the difference? What's the difference? You do not understand the difference?
I'm not sure where you're going with that.
Working on your business is taking care of the systems of it, to where if someone else is sitting in your seat, they can pick up where you left off, where you're in your business, you're actually in the seat, making the calls and doing the things. So that's what I see as the difference between the two.
And that's perfect. I mean, to put that into like real world stuff. Working in your business is like following up with an appraiser. Writing a repair amendment, making a flyer, putting your properties on Facebook Marketplace. That's working in your business. Spending a majority of your time working in your business, which is probably what a majority of us have done over the past 24 months, is not going to cut it moving forward. You have to take some dedicated time to work on your business. Things like working on your business is like sitting down and looking at my 3 funnels. Okay, my 3 funnels are my sphere. I do a lot of open houses and I'm really like involved with my kids' sports teams. How am I going to contact these people? How often am I going to contact these people? Why am I going to contact these people? Why would these people want me to contact them? So asking those sort of questions. I'm really big into reverse engineering. So ask yourself these questions also. And you might want to write these questions down because these are not ones I'm going to ask you to like answer out loud, but these are definitely questions that you should be asking yourself moving into the new year. How many transactions, do you know how many transactions you need to pay your bills? You do?
I do.
Jim asked us what we do a weekly meeting with our staff, and he asked one time, how can we look at our scorecard? Because we know exactly how many transactions we need to close as a brokerage to keep the lights on. And then anything above that is profit. How many transactions do I need in 2023 to consider it a success? Like, I didn't just pay my bills and stress myself really out because this business is stressful. But like, how many did it like, but I got to do some extra things and it was way better than I thought.
I have a sheet for this, if you want me to send it to you.
Heck yeah.
I send it to them, but it basically lays out all the bills and expenses, and we just did it, and then we did it for us, and then we made one for realtors.
That's awesome. Yeah. So reach out to Sean if you're interested in having a spreadsheet about this. How many transactions do I need to do in 2023 to exceed all expectations? Like, I never thought I could do that. like, this is the most kick-ass year, and I did this during a shifting market. So think about that.
I feel like these questions are just really relevant when we do, level up every year.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, when I did level up in January, I had my goal, and I met my goal. And you just like kind of relook at it, and I was thinking about whatever, somewhere. Like
Yeah.
having these goals really do help.
Yeah, writing it down, consistently looking at it, not just writing it down during level up and you'll be like, that's cool, see you later, like, let's start working, like really looking at these. And then reverse engineering them. Does anybody know what reverse engineering means?
I go, like, when I speak with an investor, I'm like, what's your 10-year, 15-year goal? And then how do we get there backwards? So it's like taking that end goal and then, okay, now what do we need to do today? What do we need to do in 3 years? So that way we can get to that end goal. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like working backwards.
So let's get an example. So Allison, I'm gonna pick on you for a second. So if like 2023 was an absolute like kick-ass year for you in real estate, what would that look like? Like, it could either be like a commission dollar figure or a transaction goal.
10 transactions. like,
10
in a year.
transactions.
Yeah.
Okay. You should really double that, but.
Double that?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was.
You could do 10 transactions.
Okay.
You could absolutely do 10 transactions.
Okay.
Okay, so let's use 20 transactions, Allison. Just because that's really what your should be.
Okay.
But, so 20 transactions, reverse engineering means I take 20 transactions. I have my 3 funnels, right? What do I need to do within those 3 funnels to get to my 20 transactions? Now, some of this is going to be really like data and research for someone that has not done much real estate yet, because you probably don't know your conversion rates. And so and I recommend you pick like a funnel, maybe with a lower conversion rate that's like more time heavy, and then a funnel with a higher conversion rate, like sphere of influence or lender referrals, and like kind of have a blend of the two. But really looking at those 3 funnels and like, how many deals from each of these funnels do I plan to get? And then base your actions on that.
Okay.
So like, did you write down 3 funnels?
I really want to do the learn a neighborhood, because there's some like Charming Valley, like really high-end neighborhoods that why not learn them. Sports teams, kids events. That's something that is challenging because I don't enjoy those things, so it could be beneficial that I have to go to them anyway. And then I like writing letters, so absentee letters, mailers. I've been writing letters to expired listings, for sale by owners, things like that. I like doing that, because I don't really like to talk to them in the first place.
Sure.
It's kind of more of like a surprise if it does work out as
Okay.
and I do it more than once.
Yeah, no, consistency is gonna be key with all this. Like, you can't do things, you're like, hey, I spent $500 and sent a postcard to all of whatever, the ranch. And you'd be lucky if you could send postcards to the ranch for $500, but, and it didn't work. But I think like really concentrating on that absentee owner thing, because they need somebody that is here, like saying what's going on with our market. Because no matter what you like read on the news, like our markets are localized. Like what's happening here is not what's happening in, Orlando, or what's happening in, Indianapolis, or what's happening in Dallas, or, other parts of the country. So having that expert, like, and having that absentee, like, because they probably don't have somebody they're regularly talking to, like the person next door that lives here, works here, kids go to school here. So I think that's absentee owners are a gold mine. How will I keep in contact with my funnels? So you talked about letters. What's some other ways we keep in contact with our funnels?
Call them, text
Call
them.
them.
It's such a consistency thing too, because like, I think about you, Sean, is like, I always get an email from you. Like, I don't know how often you're doing it, but I just feel like I always have like a new piece of information. Like, no matter what, I'm getting a new piece of information from Sean.
And I think what you're saying is so important, that all of this is important if you're gonna follow through with the lead generation portion of it. So like I created a Google sheet, and then I have hot, medium, and cold leads. And then the hots every week I hit, the mediums about every 2 weeks, and then the colds about every month. And then I also have people that are buying in the future. And I think what you said earlier, is like, you have to go out 12 months, because even if they're not buying right now, you could possibly this week set up 4 listings or 4 buyers for next year. And if you're doing that consistently, you're just setting up your pipeline over and over again. But there's also people right now that I have in my leads from 7-8 months ago that are now like, hey, okay, I think we're ready. But it's because I kept following up with them that they're like, don't let a lead just fall off. I always let like the cold leads, even if they're no longer like a year out, I still send them something, because you never know what you're gonna get. They're still a lead. But you have
Yeah.
to, with all of this information, if you don't have a good like follow-up system with your leads, you're just wasting your time.
So Sean, are you using like some software or some tools?
An amazing software, and I use Google Sheets. And the reason why I use Google Sheets is because I can put my assistant on it also, and I have it on my phone. So I can, if I'm out and someone gives me a call, I can just hop over my Google Sheet and make notes on it. Where with my CRM software, I then go update it later on, but I just like Google Sheets, because they,
Google Sheets is cool because you can get on your phone.
yeah, and that's why.
So is it just an Excel spreadsheet in
It's
Google?
like a cloud-based Excel spreadsheet.
It's just a
Yeah.
database. I mean, I'm just sitting there thinking, I mean, we have a valuable tool and I'm spitting in the wind. Because I haven't used it, and that's Chime.
Yeah.
That's that for us.
Mhm.
We do all this work.
I've seen that.
Set different priorities for different leads.
Yeah.
It has its own campaigns.
Yeah.
If you have a hot lead, it touches them every
Right.
so often.
Mhm.
It's just getting over the hump. Everything's easy to do once you know how to do it, but until you get to.
System
Yeah.
in Shine, like a drip campaign to contact these people, is working on your business, not in it. That is a perfect example. That is working on your business. So how are you gonna keep in contact with these guys? And I recommend, like, I know Allison, your comfort zone is writing letters. I think that's great. Actually, I think people like to receive letters. They don't receive as many like personalized letters as they have in the past, because we have social media and email and text and all that stuff. But I recommend that you do a combination of all things. Video, picking up the phone, calling them, texting them. One of my really good friends in Fairbanks is a big advocate for video texts. And she doesn't do anything fancy. There's all kinds of like programs you can do this within, but she just like, I literally just like turn my camera around, record a video and like text it to them. She does it every single time she goes, thank you. She does it every time she goes to a listing appointment. She's like, I literally drive down the road, I sit in my car and I turn around and I just say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, thank you so much for having me over to your house. You have a beautiful home. I'd love to work with you and get it sold. That's it.
That's after she leaves.
Okay. That's after she leaves. You could record a video and send it out like, hey, I'm just trying to think of something like, hey, like maybe you have a group of like first-time home buyers or something like that, and you're like, hey, a lot of people think like are really scared off from buying because of the interest rates. There's actually this new program that rolled out called a 2-to-1 buy down. I'm working with a really awesome lender on that. I would love to tell you more about that. This is a great way where we can get you in a house without paying the interest rates that you're seeing other people pay. I mean, something like this, that's just kind of shooting from the hip. Like you could just record one video and text it out to a bunch of people. You could use a program like BombBomb, or you could just really go old school. And like I said, don't be so concerned with perfection that you do nothing. I mean, I'm not saying you have to do that, but that's one way you could contact them. So how are you going to keep in contact with them? And I think you should even like dive deeper with this. Like, I'm going to write them letters. Okay, how often are you going to write them letters? What are you going to say in your letter? And you could even go, like, some of them could be like pre-planned, like just simple information of like, hey, Here's reminders to do these things to prepare your house for winter. Have you unhooked your hoses? I mean, it's probably a little late for that, but like unhooked your hoses. Have you done this? Have you done that? You could maybe find some information about like what groundwater, like the increase in groundwater and the water in your crawl space. Like, have you checked your crawl space? Like, I don't know if you've seen these articles in the news, but quite a few people are experiencing water in the crawl space that have never had an issue with that before. This is a really good time to check your crawl space. If you have an issue down there and need a referral to a great, if there's any issues, reach out to me. I have a preferred vendor list if you have any issues, and I'd be happy to send you a referral to a great vendor that deals with that. Really like positioning yourself as the source of the source. How often will I contact them? What method will I use to contact them? Okay. Next slide. Here's some tools. This came from Inman. Does anybody read Inman? Like I said, this is the time to start increasing your capacity. I recommend that you start. Do you want me to move this? Because it drives me nuts. So this is the time to really start like diving into your industry. Like, who are the influencers of our industry? Did we know? You. No, if you think I'm the influencer of the industry, you need to get out here. You need to get out. No, I mean, yeah, people doing board activities, they're probably exposed to some stuff that maybe you guys aren't regularly hearing about. I'm a big advocate of volunteering for your local board because I think it gives us more of a holistic picture of like why we do what we do. Not everybody's into it, that's okay. But it does definitely keep you plugged into like what is happening in the housing market. Inman, do you read Inman? You do not? So Brad Inman is do you read it? Okay, so Brad Inman is, he puts out like a publication. He also holds 2 conferences a year. And basically what he's doing is he is collectively pulling together like anybody who's anybody in our industry. He's more of a journalist, really. I mean, I don't even think he has actually any direct connection to the real estate industry previously to starting Inman. But he is basically pulling like what are brokerages doing. You do have to pay to subscribe to him. I think it's like $20 a month, 100% worth it. They're writing articles on like this came from an article of like, here's 4 tech tips to make you look like a pro. Does anybody know obviously what any of these things are? Does anybody know what Box Brownie is? It's so interesting because when I went to this conference last week, so many people were big. They're like, oh my gosh, I love Box Brownie. I'm like, I don't know hardly anyone that knows what that is. I've never heard of it. Okay, so Box Brownie is a virtual staging company. So if you're like, hey, I can't get this house sold, it looks kind of like, have you ever had a house where you're like, house is so vanilla, like it's just boring. Like it's a nice house, it's a good price, but I can't sell it because it just is lame. Have you ever had a house like that? Box Brownie is a great solution for that. Just virtual staging. They're basically going to virtually place furniture in the house. It's a company based out of Australia. They're quick, they're fast, you can pick theme. I wish I could give you the address of a house I've used it on. It's on like Bay Ridge, I think is the address.
So it shows the potential of what the house could be, even
Yep.
when they walk through and see it laying, they could look at the pictures. Okay, that's
Yep.
fun.
Because the reason I did it on this one is because it had a very odd shaped living room.
I want to do it on my own house.
Yeah, try it on just
Right?
one. We didn't do it on every single room. We did it on the master bedroom, the dining room, the kitchen, and the living room.
Right for your listing appointment. You pull this out and say, well, instead of staging a home, I'm willing to do this. It gives you a 1-up maybe on other people that are not willing to do something.
Yeah.
Do they do the opposite? Do they clean the clutter?
No, I don't. I don't know. Again, I don't think so. I've never seen that as an option. BombBomb, obviously, that's how I send you guys our videos. It's definitely a way. The nice thing about BombBomb is it embeds the video into the message, so they don't have to click on it and download it, things like that. if you want to send it that way. The nice thing about BombBomb is like the analytics. Like I know every single time you guys watch my videos, I know how long you watch it for. If you watch it in its entirety, I know if you go back to it, things like that. That's one of the benefits of BombBomb as opposed to like just texting out a video. Showing time, do you guys use the listing reports in these? The listing activity reports, they're pretty cool. They are pretty cool. And then HomeSnap is, that is a new feature that has been integrated into our MLS within like the last year. And it's great for a lot of things. You can use it to place ads, Google, you can place Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads. And what I like about it is I don't have to think about like the analytics or the audience of it. It does that part for you. And also Waze app, I've never done anything on the Waze app. I don't know if that's really big here or not. But the other thing HomeSnap is really good for is it will, you can solicit Google reviews through it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm stuck on that too. I've done many Google reviews and they're not showing up.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Like on your Google profile?
yep, I've seen it. Yeah, I'll figure that out too.
Okay, so when we're talking about lead generation, we're talking about time versus money. So when you look at your funnels, some of your funnels, if you have a lot of time, you might be willing to spend money to do things that are quicker, right? But it maybe if you're just starting out and you're like, hey, I have a lot of time, maybe you're willing to do something that is less of a monetary investment, but more of a time investment. So I just like encourage you to really look at that. Like if like a perfect example, if you're like, hey, one of my funnels is going to be farming. How much money do you have to dedicate to that? Because that's a question you should ask yourself, or you should discontinue using it because farming is expensive. Do I like farming? Yeah, it's one of my preferred methods for sure. Because I think I can deliver a valuable message to them, but it is expensive. Every single time you mail a postcard to somebody, that I mean, you're just racking up. It's not unheard of to spend $500 a postcard or letter to really be effective. And you can't just do it once. So you just like really think about like how much money do I have to invest in this, or do I need to do something that's like a little bit more time of a time commitment as opposed to monetary.
It's also important to track that, so then that way you have the analytics afterwards. If you spend 3 months on farming and your return is, $30, then maybe that's not the fund that you want to be anymore. But if your return is $10,000, then maybe you actually want to spend
More.
more of your time in that. But if you don't track that, like today I spent 45 minutes farming. And then at the end of the month, okay, I spent 10 hours doing this and here's my return from that. But if you don't have that information, it's kind of a waste.
What's a way you could track farming?
What is farming?
Like farming would be sending letters to
Okay.
like neighborhoods and stuff.
Okay.
Asking everybody that calls you how they got your information.
Yes. What's another way? I was thinking Sean would have an answer to this.
Or something, and I just try to think of something that's the one.
What's a way you could track? Now, they're not always going to contact you this way, but one way you could track farming is if you were like using like a print, you're sending a printed letter or a postcard, is a QR code. Yeah,
And it works.
yeah. I mean, QR codes are nice because they're easy to use. And they can go directly into like register here and I'll contact you right away. You could even, you could link that QR code to just about anywhere. You could link it into like a Calendly thing, just like I had, I've never heard of anyone doing that or if it would work, but like schedule like a 30-minute consultation with me or whatever, and it can hook directly into your calendar. But that is a way, like using a QR code like that would be a way to track like how effective your farming is.
What system do you use to generate a QR code?
There's a lot.
There's-
Oh, yeah.
Is there?
And
Yeah,
there's-
just Google QR code generator.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Okay,
And you could use that QR code on a lot of different things.
right.
So. Okay,
I use it for my 3D tours. And just scan.
time blocking. Are you time blocking to spend time on lead generating for your funnels?
It's not on your calendar, it doesn't.
Yes, that's true. It's so true. Because if it's not on your calendar, you will find something else to go on your calendar, and it's probably not something that's like conducive to what you hope to achieve in the next 12 months. Lead input sheets. I'm really big on lead input sheets. I'm big on lead input sheets for a couple different reasons. One, if you're always using a lead input sheet for people, I like paper ones. Some people use a Google Sheet. Some people are way more techie than that. I am not techie. I still use the same sheets. We do have 2 sheets in Signature Docs. It's a seller intake sheet, a buyer intake sheet. I have those from 2, 3, 4 years ago of people. Like I have one client that I sold a house to, I think we closed last year. And I've been working with them since 2017. Yeah, just things kept happening, like they had a family member die, they had a baby, like all this stuff, and it was just never the good time to sell their house and buy a new one. So just having those, and I just look through them every single week and like, is there any touches that I need to make on any of these people? There's obviously CRM, Salesforce, Market Leader, LionDesk, Chime, Top Producer, Referral Maker, Outlook, Excel. I mean, you've just got to have a way that you keep track, whatever that looks like to you. I also, when I was really, really heavy into sales production, I would set myself a daily goal to add somebody to my database. So I would say every single day, I'm going to add 1 new person to my database. Doesn't seem like a big deal, right? But like, think about after like 20 days of working, 20 times 12, like 240 people in my database just from 1 year of doing that. Yes.
Am I waiting for her at the?
Yes. Okay. Sorry, that's good. So adding people to your database. Well, I mean, you can add I guarantee every single one of us could add 1 person to our database every single day, just from like what you do on a daily basis, unless you're like a total hermit and do nothing. But like you come into contact with a vendor, a lender, somebody you see online, somebody you see in the grocery store that you haven't seen in a while. All of that, you could add 1 person to your database every single day. Okay, so let's like talk about farming. I really hate not being able to use my clicker. So again, we talked about postcards, letters, social networking, social networks, forming groups, neighborhood groups. This might be an opportunity past, but if you like have like some sort of connection to some sort of neighborhood, do you guys ever have like a neighborhood that you were like, I always seem to be getting like calls or showings, or like I've sold a lot of properties in this neighborhood. It's weird how it works.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it seems like that way. Or there's some neighborhoods I've never touched, which surprises me.
Yeah, like one that surprises me is I think in my entire 20 years in business, I've probably sold 3 houses ever in the ranch.
Just say, yeah, I was gonna say the ranch. I've never seen.
Ever, which is huge because there's a ton of turnover. There's a ton of homes. There's a ton of turnover. It's really big military neighborhood. And I just don't. And it's like, I don't know what it is about it. It's probably because I don't like it. But you know, I mean, if you have some sort of connection, or maybe your connection is, hey, I just sold a property there, or I just listed a property there, but you have to stay consistent with it. Know your market. People love data. So we give you data every single Monday. You could use that data. The MLS is really easy to pull data out of. They actually have classes on pulling data and statistics out of the MLS. Again, this is the time to increase your capacity. If you're like, I don't know how to do that. Well, this is the time to learn. What's some data? And I would ask yourself these questions. What are the questions you get asked the most from people that are not in the business? How's the market?
What's the percentage of increase from 2021 to 2022?
Wouldn't it be powerful for you to have that answer?
Yes, you know.
Yeah. So I would, if you were like, I don't know what to say,
Yeah.
that's what you say. Like sit down and write yourself like 10 questions you get asked. Or like maybe sit down and write yourself, what's 10 questions I get asked by sellers right now? Not like 12 months ago. Like, hey, how big is my check going to be? And like, how much cash am I going to be rolling around in? Like, what do sellers ask you now?
Should we wait?
Should we wait? Yeah. That's a question you should be answering in some way to the people you're reaching out to. What's a question buyers ask? Should we wait? Should we wait? Are the interest rate?
I pay X amount in rent, how much?
That's a great one,
Yeah, that's a good.
because rents are high. Rents are really high. We have a fourplex, and that same exact fourplex was the first place I ever lived, not the same exact one, but the same exact type of building, like same builder and everything, was the very first place I lived in on my own. And we paid $800 a month to live there. We're getting $1350 for them now. So like, I mean, if like $1350 is the very top of what I can afford, is this the time for me to buy a house? Probably not, right? And then you're like, okay, remember, because it's not our job to motivate people. It's because there's a lot of people that can only afford $1350 that are probably pretty motivated to buy a house. Like they will take all your time,
All of it.
all of it. Every bit of seconds that you will give to them, they will take all of it. But like our job is not to motivate people, it's to find motivated people. Again, go back to like, who is your ideal client? So if like I'm out there marketing for big parcels of land, let's get that. I hate selling big parcels. I don't want to like know about it. I want to research about it. Like, it's not that I won't do it. Will I do it? If my best friend wants to buy a 40-acre piece of land, yes, I will sell it to them. And I will do the very best job possible, but I'm not looking for people that are wanting to buy big remote parcels of land. Some people are all about that. Like they love like the remote, they know all about like, they're going to get it. They're like Onyx app out. Like, I don't want any part of it. So who is your ideal client? And like, when you're looking at like your 3 funnels and the activities you're doing, is that in alignment with who you said your ideal client was? Is it in alignment with, like, if maybe Katie is just making videos about luxury homes, is that in alignment with the fact that she says she wants to work with first-time home buyers? Have you ever had somebody say to you, do you sell houses in that price range?
Yeah.
I've had that so many times. I'm like, I'm from Meadow Lakes. I sell anyhow. Like, I will sell a trailer. That I was like, I'd rather sell a trailer than a remote piece of property any day of the week. So just like really think about that. That's why this is important. Like, is your message in alignment with what you are saying, or is your ideal people to work? Why does it even matter who your ideal client is? Why does that matter?
If you like what you do, you tend to do a better job.
That is exactly it. Like we do, like have you ever had like a client you work with where, like I had this client that we probably showed like 30 homes in like the really busy time in the market. So of course, what happens then? All the houses, when they finally come to the conclusion that they want to buy it, it's gone. Why would I continue to work with them? Because I like them. Like, I like them, they're good people, and they sent me 2 referrals in the course of the time that we were working together.
That's the key. If you're working with people you like, chances are they hang out with people that are like them.
Right.
So
Yeah, I don't know like any really amazing, good-hearted people that are friends with a bunch of houses. Like, that's just not a thing, right? So yeah, going back to your ideal client is super important. Okay, your online presence. So this is what I'm going to tell you about this. Obviously, there's all kinds of ways to do this, but I'm going to keep it really, really simple for you. You need to be every single place your ideal client would look for you. I'm not saying you have to have a constant TikTok presence, but if like the audience you are going for is a demographic that spends hours on TikTok, you might want to be there. Maybe you have the tendency to work with a very highly professional clientele. Where's a place you would want to be then?
LinkedIn.
Like, you need to start to think about like your ideal client. Where do they look for? Like, where are they going to do their research about you? Your out-of-state buyers.
Zillow.
They're going to look for you on Zillow.
Yeah.
So what are they going to look at on Zillow? What would be important about Zillow for you?
My reviews.
Your reviews, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, what are other people saying about you? Because there is people doing a crap load of business that if you look them up on Zillow, all it says is their name and their brokerage, and it doesn't even have a picture.
And then I would, not to call anybody out in here, but the other day I went on to realtor.com and clicked on somebody's, website address, and it was the wrong website address, so go on to your pages and just make sure the information is all correct.
Was it like a bad site?
No, it
Oh.
was just the wrong website.
Is the wrong website? Like, did they do like a Donald Trump thing where he bought like Jeb Bush's? Do you remember
No.
that when he like Donald Trump bought like Jeb? Jeb,
It was just, it went to .com instead of .net,
Ah.
Link with my chart.
oh, okay.
so it is good though to go through and verify all your.
Yeah, like maybe like sit down, this is again, working on your business. Sit down at your computer, maybe sit down with like a couple of your girlfriends, guy friends, work people and be like, let's look me up. Like if I am like Joe Smith moving here from Alabama and I make contact with Jessica and I'm like, I want to do some research on this girl. And I'm like, Jessica Baker, Real Estate Alaska, what do I see? And so you need to, like, I would spend some time doing that. Like, what do they see? Like, what is your brand? What is it like? And whether you think you have a brand or not, you do. It's just whether or not it's a good one. And whether it's in alignment with like the business you're actually looking for. So use videos. It's all like one of the things that I'm not really good at, and I think it's really, really valuable is to have some generic videos saved on your camera roll to send to people. Using BombBomb, the benefit of using BombBomb is that there are analytics behind it. You can actually see the effectiveness of it because you know if they actually are opening it, how long they're watching it, are they watching your video in its entirety? Maybe you're like Jake is making like a lot of videos right now. And so maybe he's like, hey, I don't know if my videos are too long or too short or whatever. If you know you're making videos and nobody's watching them till the end, maybe it's like, okay, I need to like make my message a little bit more succinct.
Is there a subscription?
Yes, $50 a month. I also would encourage you, all of you, to go to Zillow, Realtor.com, LinkedIn, probably Facebook business page if you have one. And like, what are people gonna see when they look you up?
Especially if you've recently moved brokerages, because I started finding older ones for myself that.
Yeah, be everywhere that your consumer is looking. Also have agent reviews and ratings. Are all of you guys hooked into Real Satisfied surveys? So that is something that we provide for you as a brokerage. You do not have to get those testimonials from people while you were working here. You could, if you still talk to like somebody you sold a house to 3 years ago and you're like, hey, I'm still good friends, they would love to give me a review. Send them a link through Real Satisfied. You guys should all have access. If you do not have access, Erica is able to get you set up on that. You can send out your own reviews. You can get requests for reviews. You can get them for buyers, sellers, and peers. So maybe you have a lender that you work with frequently. Maybe you worked with Sean recently and you're like, hey, can you give me a testimonial about your experience with working with me? I'm sure Sean would be happy to do that. And you can link the Real Satisfied to your Facebook business page, your Realtor.com profile, and your Twitter account. There might be one more, but I'm not positive. That automatically, when you receive that testimonial, you hit publish. Now, Sean writes back and he's like, no, Devin's an asshole. Like, I never want to work with her. You do not have to hit publish. But if you hit publish, it automatically feeds into those things. So you don't, it's like, you don't have to go and like post it somewhere or ask Sean to do one for each individual thing.
I've actually been posting the ones that I've been getting and then like tagging the realtors that I've been working with.
Yeah.
On the, like, please experience the one, but I've actually gotten a couple of calls from that because they were like, oh, I see that you're doing this and you know, you're doing it. It's just more frequency and more validation for what you're doing. And I think the education is important in online presence, that you're bringing education and not just like random things, but also showing that people enjoy working with you is another. And I don't think that we do that enough. My side's not glamorous. Like we don't get to give the person the keys and take the picture. So for us, it's like whatever we can do on that side, but it's beneficial when people want to work with you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I read reviews all the time. Like I kind of had an aha about reviews probably like 7 or 8 years ago when I was selling some, like a younger couple a house. And we had been out looking at houses and they narrowed it down to 2 houses they wanted to see. And they said, do you mind if we just go grab a cup of coffee and think about it before we come back? Obviously, this wasn't like 12 months ago because I was like, no, you don't have time for coffee, like no coffee. But they're like, I was like, yeah. And so they immediately pull up their phone and like start looking on Yelp for like
Oh.
houses that, and I just thought that, I was like, that is so odd. Like, I would never think to do that. Like, obviously I was from a different generation than them, but I am doing it now. Like, do you guys, I mean, before I order anything online, I always read the reviews. And so what makes you think that they are not doing the same about you? Wouldn't it be kind of weird too, if you didn't have any reviews? And so, like I said, if you are new in the business and don't have past clients, that's okay. Real Satisfied allows you to obtain peer reviews. Maybe you have your vendor, your handyman that works with you frequently. He probably knows more about how you operate than one of your clients does, because he has multiple experiences with you.
Yeah, Excel fills it all. So I had a problem with Real Certified survey once because it's complicated. So it asks like 3 or 4 questions or 4 or 5. And then it gives a description that they can put in for each one, but if they put the nice survey in the one of the middle ones and don't do the top or bottom, it didn't publish.
Yeah, it said,
Yeah.
because they have to say,
Beautiful.
do they want to do a testimonial? And they have to click yes on that for the testimonial to publish.
Well, they put it in one of the center ones and it didn't show up.
Yeah, it won't unless they put it in the testimonial spot.
Right.
Like they can put remarks about
Right.
like, were they on time or whatever? I don't know what all the questions are,
Yeah.
but
It's like they put it in the wrong place. It kind of sucked because it was really,
Yeah.
really nice.
I think you have to kind of coach them. Like, I would let them know like, hey, this is coming. This is what, like, this is really important to my business. And you, like, once you get to the very end, it's going to ask you if you would put, you know, if you want to provide a testimonial, I need you to hit yes, and then write in that box, the testimonial.
That would be a great time for either a personalized video or one that's saved in your camera roll.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure working with you, either personalized, put the name in there, not just having your camera roll. You'll be receiving this in a little bit, and please fill it out, make sure you do that at the bottom, but
Yep.
you were saying save those in your camera roll, because it's another touch.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay. Again, just go through these. I was shocked the first time I ever took a class like this and they said, be everywhere your clients are. I was shocked that like I went on realtor.com. I'm like, I'm a realtor. And it like literally had that weird like gray picture that said like not pictured. And it just said like Devin Thomas and my brokerage. And that's all it said. So if you have not put any effort into your Zillow profile, your realtor.com profile, obviously if you've never signed up for a LinkedIn page, they do have a free version of LinkedIn. And I would recommend, unless you're going to be really like active on LinkedIn, that you just go with the free version. The other version's kind of expensive. And I just think you need to be everywhere that they would possibly look you up. Here's another tool that some people are using. Has anybody had used any text lead capture sign writers on their signs? So I do know, do you guys do list reports, Sean? You don't, so I know some lenders do list reports. If you have a lender that you're partnered with that does list reports, there is an option through list reports where you don't even have to pay for this. Like the list report provides it, and it provides you the template for the sign writer, and all you have to do is get it printed, and you have a 1-800 number or a text number that it will text you automatically. Open houses, again, I think you should only do open houses if you're prepared to put in the work. Like, have you ever had somebody say open houses don't work? A lot, right? Except there are people that like build that, like they have one funnel and it's open houses. And that's because they put in the work. And I do a class about successful open houses, but like putting in the work of like notifying the neighborhood that you're coming, like who's your audience? Who are you trying to get there? And like, how are you reaching out to them? Like, are you letting them know it's there? Or are you just going to put a sign in the yard and hope they show up that day? You know, how are you marketing your open houses? Like I've seen people have open houses and they go in the MLS and they didn't even put it in the MLS. Which I have to say that I was a little reluctant to believe that that is effective, but it's actually, there are quite a few buyers that look for open houses that way.
Well, it gets published on Realtor.
Right,
Yeah.
it's published on Realtor.com. You can go in and manually do it on Zillow. I think it actually automatically feeds to Zillow.
I think it
too.
does.
Yeah,
That's
it
what
does.
I'm saying, yeah, it feeds it out.
I know you can manually do it on Zillow. You could do it on Facebook Marketplace. There's tons of groups you could share it in. I mean, there's all kinds of things. But like Caitlin Espada is a perfect example of somebody that absolutely kills it with open houses. And she will not do an open house unless she has a minimum of 1 week to prepare.
And
And
whole
she's-
system.
Yeah, she does have it.
It's-
And that's the thing, it's
it
like a
works.
perfect example of working on your business. She's like, I'm gonna make this a funnel of my business. I enjoy doing this. I like doing this. Like one of her genius ideas, I thought is how she gets people to submit their information. She's like, hey, we're gonna do a drawing. And she's like, I want you to submit a guess of how much this house is gonna sell for. So she contacts them all at the end. She has their contact in her, she does like a prize or whatever. And she contacts them all and says, hey, you know, you remember the house you saw that was 800,000, it sold for 750. Like everybody likes that information because that's not the same as saying, do you know anybody that's looking to buy real estate, sell real estate, invest in real estate? But like, if that works for people, great. But I'm like, I want to like contact people with a purpose, with like a value. And something like that, people want to know, like they always want to know real estate.
I took a class with Kathy Fernandez and she is like a master of open houses with her team. And it was also, I just want to hit on this, it's also about what you have in the house with you, like her packages, her
Mhm.
buyers and sellers packages, which we have on Dropbox. Tailored, and so in Anchorage is very competitive because people go to 10 open houses. And she said people come to mind because I had the most detailed, informative information.
Yeah.
So it's just not only prep, but
Maybe you're partnering with a lender and you're like, hey, I have a lender on site that's, you know, I mean, gonna tell you like, you know, maybe can do like a no credit pull, you know, just kind of like little analysis of what, tell me how much house I can afford and they'll tell, you know, what kind of loan programs you can qualify for and, you know, how much of a house that will buy you. Quarterly updates to vendors. So I have a friend in Las Vegas that does this, and it made me think of when you were talking about your handyman. So she does this every single quarter. Think about all the vendors you use throughout your real estate transactions. Appraisers, title officers, heating guys, septic guys, handymen, painters, I mean, all the above. So every single quarter, she is going through and writing all the vendors that she has worked with the prior 3 months, and just saying, thank you so much for, let's use the HVAC guy. I think, you know, you, over the past quarter, you have helped me close the following transactions. And she lists out the addresses and we really appreciate working with you. You're great to work with. We want to work with more people like you. And here's my business cards in case you ever come across anyone that you think could use my services. What that is doing is reminding them that you have sent them business. Because there's like this need when I send you business, like you automatically, especially if it was a good experience, obviously if it's a bad experience, you're probably not going to include that, but like, there's this automatic need. It's like human nature that I want to send you business back. I'm not saying it's going to work every time. This one is one, like I wouldn't waste your time in doing it if you're not going to be consistent about it. But it's like that costs you almost nothing and almost no time. You just put together like a really cool template of like, it was really awesome working with you. Like, these are the houses we worked with over the past 90 days. I'm so grateful for your assistance. I'm so grateful you're part of my team, you're on my preferred vendor list. I'd love to work with, more people like you, here's my cards. Just like once a quarter. Events and seminars, we talked about this already. Again, this is not my wheelhouse, but Couple things, you could do a holiday party, summer barbecue, Valentine's Day date. I have a friend that does this every Valentine's Day. She calls all of her clients that she knows are single women and she takes them out to dinner. On Valentine's Day.
Are they good buyers?
Who cares? Like, we're like, so has anybody had any experience? Has anybody had experience with BNI? So BNI, one of the principles of BNI that I love, and you should really start thinking about all the people you know in the same way. Your job is not always to sell to them, like people in your database. Like, I'm not trying to sell you something I'm trying to sell through you. What I'm trying to do is for you to talk about me every time somebody brings up that they want to buy or sell a home. That is that is the goal, not to sell directly to just those people in your database. It's not to sell to them, to sell through them. Investment seminars. You could partner with people on that. Sean has a great program for investment buyers. You could have a seminar about that. You could do something more on the fun side. Photos with the Easter Bunny, photos with chickens, baby chickens or bunnies or Santa, whatever it feels like. I would encourage you not to do things that do not feel natural or good to you. Like, do things that feel
Miniature donkeys, maybe.
miniature donkeys.
That doesn't feel natural.
It feels natural. First time home buyer education, partner with like a lender and a home inspector and put on your own first time home buyer seminar. You know, again, that's going to be a consistency thing. Also, here is the most underrated thing I think at our brokerage is like, what is your brokerage already doing that you could just invite people to? Like, for example, trunk or treat. That was a perfect example. You could have called every single person you know and say, hey, like, our brokerage is putting on a trunk or treat. Do you know anybody that wants to come trick or treating? Okay, maybe you don't give a crap about Halloween or trick or treating, but it was a reason. Nobody's going to say, why are you calling me?
Because you know you want to see a donkey.
Right, we're gonna have a miniature donkey there and food trucks or whatever. Like, it's a great reason to be able to call and you're not making that weird phone call that you're probably not gonna make anyway that says, do you know anybody that's looking to buy real estate, sell real estate, invest in real estate? You're not making that weird phone call. You're actually calling them with a purpose. That doesn't feel like, I'm not a cold caller, but that doesn't sound like a scary phone call for me to make, even to somebody that I haven't talked to in 4 years. Like, they're not gonna say like, piss off, Devin, I hate that. I hate trick-or-treaters and kids and whatever. Like, I mean, maybe if you have like one client that's like, doesn't really like that, you know, maybe you don't call them or whatever, but like family-oriented activities, like what are things that are already happening that you could be contacting them about? Like, another thing that I've seen Amy do, is she has published out, she does this on social media, but she probably does it to her database too, is like, a list of all, I'm just using Halloween as an example because it's the most recent, like, here's a list of all the trunk or treats happening with her information on it. Here's a list of all the Christmas activities that are happening. Here's a list of whatever. Fill in the blank. Current clients are the most underutilized source of referrals there is. No one is talking about their home buying or home selling experience more than the people that are actively doing it right that minute. And we as realtors have kind of been taught to, like, we ask them for more business during the follow-up process, like after closing, right? Why do we wait to ask them for more business till after closing? So they've already moved on from that point. Like, you should be talking to them throughout the process. You know, like like you have to keep them engaged in like what they're doing. They're already talking about it. Like, why not plant the seed that you would like your information passed along while you're in the process of it? Do you have a past client closing plan? Does anybody?
Closing plan?
Yeah, like a way you're following up with your clients after closing.
You have to utilize your CRM software.
Yeah.
If you don't utilize it, then.
You'll forget.
Yeah, your drip campaigns are so important, and if you set them up correctly, they're good to go. Most lenders have a CRM software, like we have one that's free to use. So speak to your vendor and ask, there's so many tools within our CRM software that are free to use. And we have drip campaigns for all of this. And then also like some of, we get birthday updates. So it'll say like, oh, this person's birthday is this month. And I usually will call the realtor and remind them that it's.
I love it when lenders do that,
Yeah,
actually.
it's that person's birthday and there's just the different touches that you can get, but you have to.
Because a lot of times you're getting, well, you have to get their birthday. We don't always get their birthday. So I think that's. But just having, I mean, sit down, I challenge you, like one of your action items could be like, sit down and every single make a closing plan. Of like when I'm gonna contact them, what I'm gonna contact them for. I don't know when this daylight savings time is, that's a generic one, but it's an easy one. If that's a low hanging fruit, easy
Like
one of
next
like,
weekend
turn your
or
clocks
something.
back, turn them forward, whatever. Hey, March 31st is the deadline to apply for your PFD. Don't forget, maybe you could send them a video and tell them a funny story about like somebody you know, or maybe it was you that forgot to apply for your PFD. When it's the deadline to appeal your property tax assessment. Hey, have you got your property tax assessment in the mail? The deadline to appeal it, take a look at it. If you have questions about it, if I think it's off or whatever, like call me and let's talk about it. I can maybe provide you some comps or something like that. Here's the deadline to do that. Here's the deadline to, do you know anybody, like, maybe you're reaching out to like your first time home buyer, but you're like, hey, here, the deadline's quickly approaching, to apply for your property tax exemption for senior citizens. Maybe they're like, obviously not of age to obtain the property tax exemption, but maybe their parents are. Do you know how many people I talk to that don't even realize that you can do that? A ton. Register to vote deadlines, daylight savings, PFD. Another low hanging fruit is settlement statements. So all of your settlement statements are in SkySlope. So all of your closings for 2022, the very first part of 2023, this is the easiest phone call you will make. Call all your clients that you closed during 2022 and call them and say, hey, this is Jessica with Signature. I just wanted to follow up with you because it is getting ready to be tax time. One of the things that people don't realize is oftentimes some of the costs associated with buying a house or selling a house can be tax deductible. I don't know anything about that, but a lot of times when you're moving, you misplace your settlement statement. I was just calling to see if you needed a copy. Nobody's going to say, screw you, Jessica, don't call me for a tax document that I might need. If they call you for it, shame on you. I've had that happen before. Like, and I was like, I didn't do it this year. It's like one of the very first things I was taught in real estate. If you're not there yet, don't worry about it. Pick something else. Another great touch that we've heard about before is, and we're getting ready to do this as a brokerage. We're getting ready to revamp our preferred vendors list. You can call your people and say, hey, I am looking to build a really valuable preferred vendors list for my people. Do you have any like electricians or like trades? It's really hard to find good tradespeople, and that is real. I'm looking for some referrals to good tradespeople. Do you know anyone that would, I could put on my list? Or and then you could also take that a step further. You could call that person and say, hey, one of my clients referred me to you. I just wanted to know if it was okay if I put you on my preferred vendors list. That's another database entry. All of this stuff you can see, super simple, also super easy to push to the wayside and be like, no, I actually have to check on the status of an appraisal, which is working in your business. People love note cards. You can send them for just about any reason, and people do not handwrite note cards anymore. So it is an untapped thing. People love it. Every time I used to be really, really intentional about sending out note cards, and every single time people just love getting note cards. They love it, especially handwritten ones. There is a company called Send Out Cards. They kind of look handwritten. It's kind of a lazy way to do it, but you can do it. The cool thing about Send Out Cards too is that if you wanted to like send a gift with it. Like one time, a lender that I sent a referral to in Arizona sent me something from Send Out Cards, and it was a card, but it also came with like 2 little brownies, which were delicious. So you can, utilize what you have. Like, I think a lot of times people like just really overthink this. And it's not expensive. There's also another company that I use called Handwritten, and it's the I in written is a Y. And I use that one, and it's a subscription, and I think I get 12 cards a month, and it's pretty cheap. Like $20 a month or something like that. And that includes like the card and the mailing.
If you have a child, it's free labor.
Free labor if your child has good handwriting. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, because we have a lot of slides still to go through. Networking. This is one of my favorite ways of obtaining business, and this is something you are probably already doing already. You're just not being purposeful about it, and you're leaving a ton of money on the table. So think about some of the places that you network. Yeah. What are some of the places you network? The gym. What are some of the things you're already doing? So like for me, there were 2 things that I was doing. Like I had a major light bulb go off with me about 10 years ago when I'm like, I'm already going to CrossFit and I'm already at my daughter's cheer practice. Maybe it was not 10 years ago, but like 7, 8 years ago. I'm already at my daughter's cheer practice and I'm already going to CrossFit. Why am I not letting these people know what I do? You could be involved in like some sort of board, chamber of commerce, referral groups, Alaska Women in Business. Another one that I've heard that people have a lot of reservations about is church. They're like, I don't want to talk about that there. And that's like not what it's really for. And I agree with that. Like, I don't think you should be going around like being like, you know what, on Sundays, like, do you know anybody that wants to buy or sell a house? But what people within your church, just like military people love to support military people. And somebody at your church probably would rather support you than somebody else. Also, this kind of changes your mindset about things. If you are not reaching out to the people, would you guys all agree that there's a lot of not really great agents? So if you are not reaching out to those people, it is very likely that they're going to do business with one of those people. And it's your fault for not reaching out to them.
I think it was like Tom Ferry or Ryan Serhant, somebody posted that right now. First time buyers, or really any buyer or any seller, has like a 60% chance of finding and working with an agent that's done less than 5 deals in the last calendar year. Because of how many agents we've accumulated the last 2 years and how much business is going on now, it's going to be like, are they going to work with somebody that does 3 deals a year, or are they going to work with you?
And there's good sides and bad sides to that. The good sides is that percentage means you have tons of opportunity to absolutely kill it. And the other option side of that is people that are doing, more deals than that, or like are more seasoned in their business. Like if you're not reaching out to your people, somebody else is. And I mean, if you haven't had the gut punch of like running into somebody that you know extremely well and them telling you, being super excited, not even really realizing what that means to you, that they just bought a house with somebody else, it will change you. I actually have a story about this. I think it's still true today. Like houses that come for sale on Lazy Mountain are always like really, really hot commodities, especially if they're financeable and not $1 million. And so this house comes for sale. I think this was probably like 10 years ago. I think it was like $250 or something like that, which was not really common for Lazy Mountain. House comes on the market. They are having like back-to-back showings. Like people are literally like lined up outside the driveway, and I am walking in with my client that I don't really know. Like they're just a client I've been working with that was really looking for a house in that area and was super excited. And out walks like my oldest friend I have. Like we almost drowned in Westella Lake together in kindergarten. And she walks out with an agent. And I was like, what? And then I thought to myself, like, that is my fault. Like, I don't keep in contact with her about real estate. And so she doesn't really think of you, you think they think about you in that capacity. But if you are not constantly reminding them of what you do, they don't think about you in that capacity. She thinks of me as Devin, her childhood friend, not Devin as a real estate agent. So that was just very big aha moment for me. But I encourage you to think about things that you are already doing. Maybe there's something you want to get involved in, and that's great too. But if you're like, hey, I don't have time for anything else, think about the things you are already spending your time on. There's like people that are involved. We've had people involved, like really involved in the dog mushing community, equestrian community. Like you don't have to evolve into somebody new. You already have what it takes to be successful, most likely, unless you literally just go straight here and home and like do nothing. But I doubt that you would sign up to do this job if that's the type of person you are. You are already associated with people outside of this office. So I'm going to talk about, these are kind of out of order. I'm going to talk about something called the list. This is like kind of a strategy of networking group, networking activities. So maybe you're going to a networking thing. Maybe it's like, let's say your kid plays hockey and they're having like a hockey party, or maybe they're having like, maybe all the hockey teams are starting off and they're gonna have a parent meeting. There is a strategy called the list, and the strategy is this. You know who's going to possibly be there. Maybe they've already published the list of the parents that are going to be there. Put it on your list of it could be a mental list, it could be a physical list of like, who are the people you want to talk to when you go to this event? You're already going to the event. You're already going to the parent. Who are the people that you want to connect with when you're there? What are the type of things you want to talk to them about? Like, you're not looking to ask them for business. You're just looking to make a connection. Maybe you're going to wear like something that signifies you sell real estate. Maybe you're like, I hate name tags. I am not a name tag wearer, but they are such a good strategy. Like there is like power in wearing name tags all the time. And I'm the worst person to preach about that because I never wear one. But they definitely are a conversation piece. Like when I have wore one, I've had people come and talk to me in a store. I've had people ask me stuff like at a sporting event. So, I mean, wear something that's always a positive. It's a conversation starter. When you take the list, maybe you have 3 people. You're like, I'm going to go to the parent orientation meeting. This is just an example. It could be anything. It could be a homeowners association meeting. It could be anything that you do. Maybe it's like, I'm going to the gym and I want to make a connection with this person. Connect with that person on social media and see what's going on in their life. Like, hey, I see you just became a grandparent for the first time. That's congratulations. Like, I mean, those are conversation starters. Now there is a key component to this. You actually have to freaking care. So if you don't care and that's not who you are, this is probably a waste of your time because I think people can feel that. But like, this is a great way to like already have a conversation starter ahead of time to events you are already going to. Learn to ask great questions. This is like a skill that I am constantly working on. There's an attorney in Palmer, if you guys know Ken Goldman, and sometimes I have done like expert testimony at his divorce cases, and just like about house value, when they're arguing about that or whatever. If you ever watched him, he is incredible, and he is incredible because he asks the best questions of anyone I've ever like witnessed in my life. And if you think about like all of like the big leaders that you look up to, like the one thing, like a lot of them have many amazing things about them. Some of them have like extremely eloquent language. Some of them just like have this presence on stage, but all of them, I guarantee, know how to ask extremely powerful questions. So work on that. The person that talks the most, so if you're just there to like tell them about you and everything that's going on in your life, obviously that's not extremely engaging. So the person that talks the most dominates the conversation. The person that asks the most questions controls the conversation. People love to talk about themselves, but you have to ask them. You have to be like the catalyst for that conversation. Finding ways to develop relationships, finding commonalities, common denominators. Like I said, social media is a great way for this, and like having that for like that strategic plan of like, hey, I'm going to the parent orientation meeting tonight. I know this guy is a big developer and I really just want to meet him. And just like having that, like, and maybe it's just one person you want to connect with at that event. It doesn't have to be a bunch of people. That hit list really came from a friend of mine, Rob, that he goes to like all these big conferences and he's like, I always have my top 10 list of people. He's like, and he's like, and I realized, like, I found that I was spending a bunch of time with people that I just didn't really care about or weren't like going to help me get to where I want to go. So he's like, I had to get really intentional about who I talk to at these different events. Not just going there and just what happens. I mean, obviously there has to be an aspect of spontaneity, but being purposeful in networking events can be extremely beneficial. Is this like resonating with anyone? Okay. Lead follow-up. Last part. Again, if you're not going to have a system to follow up with these people, hit list, open houses, post-closing plan, like all of that is like a complete waste of your time to put together. And honestly, you're gonna struggle over these next 12 months. You've really got to find time in your schedule to dedicate to working on your business.
That's another hard lesson on follow-up is when you initially talk to the lead and they're like, no. And then you hit them again, they're like, no. You hit them again, they're like, no. And then you let time go by 6 months, a year, 2 years, and then you call them and they.
We just bought something.
Like, just because they said no so many times, you still need to follow up with them. They might have questions now.
Right.
They may not be
Something new
responsive.
might have came up.
So.
Uh,
hard lesson.
I got in the business from Kybe Lucas and he used to tell me, he's like, you follow up with people until they buy or die. Or tell that you get not to follow up with them, obviously, if they tell you don't. But I think if you're offering them things of value, they're not going to tell you.
And if they say no, ask their permission to call back in a month. That way you can lead the conversation with, hey, you said it was all right if I give you a call back.
Just wanted to
And then
follow
they're
up.
not so.
Yeah. So here's a statistic from NAR, and this is an old statistic, so I think this is still holds true today. It might be even worse. 73% of buyers that they interviewed say they would hire their agent again. Only 12% actually do. And that is our fault. Because we close, we get our paycheck, we're like, oh, that was a good transaction, and we never talk to them again until maybe we get lucky and they call us back. Maybe. It's a huge maybe. I mean, it's really like, what's the difference between like an individual agent and like some of these big mega teams? That's really it. Like if you ever meet some of these, I mean, some of them are extremely brilliant, the team leaders. Some of them are like absolute, like you just listen to them and you're like, but most of them, they are just like you. They just took the time to create the systems, test what works, change it if it didn't, and go back and like relook. They took the time to work on their business as much as they took the time to call and follow up on appraisals and make sure repairs were done and write repair amendments and all of that stuff that we get busy where we're too busy to do this stuff. Your number one job as a realtor is finding people to help. That's your number one job, because it doesn't matter how good and perfect of a contract you can write. It doesn't matter how good you are at negotiating. It doesn't matter how knowledgeable you are about the inspection repair process if you have no one to use those skills on. So here's a challenge for you. If you're new, maybe this isn't going to work necessarily, but you could still do it. And the nice thing about doing it when you're newer is that it will not be quite as daunting. Write down every closing you've ever had. So when I have done this, I go back 3 years because that's as far as I can go back, and I do this, like I do it in a really non-sexy way. I printed out all the closings I've had in the past 3 years, and I print it in list format and flex. And it gives you like this group, you know, like of the house, and it just across. And then I just go through and I'm like, where did I get this lead from? Lender, past client, my friend referred him. Hockey, or actually not hockey, but like. Cheer. I know these people from CrossFit, I know these people from church, I know these people from my neighborhood, and go through and look for trends. And then again, like Sean said, you might find some places where maybe you need to, like, hey, it's weird that for the past 3 years, a majority of my business has came from the gym. Yet I'm not really spending any time or purpose, or energy there. And I'm spending all this money on Zillow leads and I've only closed 2. Time to stop probably spending money on Zillow leads and start really being purposeful about maybe your interactions with your people at the gym. Are they first-time home buyers? Are they move up? Are they move down? Are they lender referrals? Is that in alignment with your ideal client? Like, am I working with people? Like, am I really freaking burnt out because I am working with investors and I absolutely hate, I'm like not a numbers person. Like I'm running around trying to find investments for people. This is just an example, but like, a good example would be like Dustin. She's like, I'm spending a majority of my day working on things having to do with property management, and that is not in alignment with what I want to do. But you won't know those answers and you won't be able to arrive at those conclusions without actually sitting down and looking at it. It's not going to be in your head either. Like you've got to like write this stuff down. You've got to nurture your leads. You've got to set up a system with a workflow. Here's some things you should do, places you can build systems. Chime, how many of you guys are using Chime? Okay, so if you're not using Chime, what else are you using instead?
The answer should be Flex.
Excel.
Excel.
Flex.
Flex is another one.
Yes.
Flex is one.
Great stuff.
Excel works. Has anybody ever heard of the program Agent 2000? It was like a proprietary system to Remax. It was not even cloud-based. It was like you had to like get the DVD or like the CD and download it on your computer. And there is an agent in our market that still uses that today.
Probably killing it.
Yep.
Yep.
Agent 2000. That's probably the year it came out. It actually does not matter. I mean, there are all these systems have like RealVolve is one. I think there's another one called like it has the name Fire in it. Fire. Anyways, all these systems work. You just have to use them. I would say if you are not going to use something that has like a ton of features, RealVolve is one of them. RealVolve can cost like anywhere from like $300 to $500 a month. And it can do like a ton of things. Like one of the big things of RealVolve is it has a transaction management feature. I know I'm not going to use that, so I probably don't need a system that does transaction management. I think we use Lion. A lot of people here use LionDesk before we transferred it into Chime because our last website didn't have a real good database system on the back end of it. LionDesk works. Like actually LionDesk can do quite a bit and it's cheap. Chime. Like the thing I like about Chime is that it integrates with your website. And so you're not like I don't like going like a lot of different places for things, but find something. Excel works. 100% Excel works. Having no system, having it in my brain or being like my entire database and plans and everything is in my phone. I freaking doubt it. I doubt it. You have to have some sort of way to be able to sit down and be like, I have people in these groups, whether it's like you're hot, cold, warm, whether it's buyers, sellers, past clients, sphere, however, you have to be able to purposely target groups to make this effective. Then obviously taking those groups, planning out a workflow for each, meaning like, how are you going to contact them? How often are you going to contact them? What are you going to say when you contact them? Build a goal list of things, the goals you want to obtain from those 3 funnels. That could be a transaction count. It could be a number of people you want to receive as referrals from those people. But without like actually making, I was telling Jim and Maddie about this. We had like 8 speakers at that conference I went to last week. And one of the guys, I had never met him before. Apparently he's really involved with Hero Nation. I had never seen him. I walked in and I was like, whoa, he's like tattooed from head to toe. But like one of the things, you should check him out on Facebook if you don't mind, a lot of cussing, a lot. His name is Zach, and his middle name that he goes by, it's not his middle name, is ROI Williams. And he has a marketing company. He is brilliant. He does cuss a lot. But one of the things he said, and that really resonated with me, is like, if you do not have action steps attached to your goals and you haven't actually sat down and planned it out, you don't have those. Like some people say, oh yeah, my goals are to sell 10 houses next year. Great, like where's your plan to do that? If you don't have a plan to do that, that is not a goal, that is a dream. And he's like, you dream when you're asleep, so go back to sleep. That really like resonated because I have a lot of goals that I actually have never sat down and wrote out. And you're like, you wonder like, why is this not happening for me?
The wish list.
Yeah. Alrighty. Weird. Give it time. So we've talked about this from time and time again throughout this past 2 hours. Consistency is key. You cannot try something for 1 month and be like, that doesn't work. Same thing like open houses. That's a perfect example. Open houses don't work. Tell Caitlin that. She will tell you you're wrong. And she will tell you, it's not that open houses don't work. You suck at open houses. I mean, it's true. Like you just don't, you're not willing to put in the work that it takes. Yes, if you like decide on Friday, you're gonna do an open house on Saturday, and you're literally gonna be like coming and checking out signs 15 minutes before you're supposed to open the door. Yeah, that is probably a waste of your time. You probably could have just stayed at home. But if you're gonna do the work, you're gonna contact the homeowners around, you're gonna put Facebook ads out, you're gonna put it in all the places. I mean, that is probably a good use of your time. Don't give up. Again, you have to give it time, stay consistent. What would you guys think is like a sufficient amount of time putting into something like maybe one funnel or an action step where you're like, okay, I need to pivot and change course?
I would say when that one funnel, spending time on it is detrimental to the others.
Okay, and not like yielding anything.
Yeah, if I'm like, let's say I'm spending time iterating cold calling, spending an hour and a half a day. That hour and a half a day I've dedicated to cold calling isn't producing results, and it's actually taking those results away from the other activities, then yeah, it's time to stick to it.
I like that. Have you ever like had something and you're like, it doesn't work, but you like know in your heart of hearts, like you actually didn't put in the work to see if it actually works? Yeah. So, I mean, you have to really think about like, maybe you're going to take on, let's say, buying Zillow leads. Okay, so what, like, let's use that as an example. Zillow leads. What do I need to know before I go out and spend $1,000 a month on Zillow leads?
That's good.
Yeah, how to convert.
How to convert them? What else?
Make sure you're not going on vacation. You spent that $1,000.
Okay, have a plan for like what happens with those leads when I'm on vacation.
Right.
Okay, what else? Is every Zillow lead that calls you looking to buy something right that minute?
Yeah.
Okay, so those people that are not looking to buy something right that minute, what's your plan for that? Like you probably want to have that set up before I went out and dropped $1,000 a month. What happens is though, we say, I need business. I have a little bit of money, probably shouldn't spend it. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm good at online leads. I'm going to say yes to the telemarketer that calls me every day. And because they're pretty freaking good and consistent, like you should be. And you're going to just say, yep, sign me up and I'll figure it out. You can do that. And some people do that and they do well. But it usually takes them quite a bit of time to figure it out. how different would it be of an experience if you actually took the time to like map out your plan before you committed to the $1,000 a month zone? That's just an example. Same thing, like, if you're like, I am going to dedicate this entire 2023 to open houses, like making open houses one of my funnel. That's just an example. It doesn't have to be. But that you had the plan of what you're gonna do with those open houses before you actually said, I'm gonna make this part of my business.
I think that guy's ROI is so important because any one of these funnels is a return on investment. And you wouldn't go buy a investment property without running the numbers and learning more information about it. So the Caitlin is the best at open houses and maybe. And I'm like, well, if I haven't done at least a couple of months of research on the best strategies for it, then maybe it's my fault that I invested in something I shouldn't have invested in.
So if you want to learn about, like, let's say, successful open houses. What's something you could do besides call people?
YouTube.
You can
YouTube.
write this website down. www.GOOGLE.com. You could like Google anything. Like, I mean, like, you can Google anything. You could be like, I need a buyer book. I need this, I need that. Like, there's so much information out there. It is time to start reading and start researching and figuring out what works. Okay, couple of closing thoughts, because we are right on time. Closing thoughts. You must believe, to be successful going into the next 12 months, you must believe that clients need you now more than they ever have. Especially sellers. You need to make a choice whether you are going to be limited by your resources or you are going to be wildly resourceful. Ask yourself this, we already talked about this. My audience, whoever your audience is, that might be your ideal client. What questions do they need answered? And construct your communication with them around those questions. Being intentional with your time and money is going to be key for you moving forward to the next 12 months. Retreat versus leaning in. So yeah, it could be really easy. Maybe you're not as busy as you are right now. Maybe you're not running around like a chicken with your head cut off, showing houses all the time, every day, every waking moment. What are you doing with that spare time? Are you retreating? Are you leaning in? No one succeeds alone. Be sure to reach out to ask for help. There's a lot of people here that would love to help you outside of just people that are in management here. There's a lot of people that would love to share their ideas, or like maybe if you're like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. I'm really thinking about getting into first-time home buyer seminars. This is my plan. I would encourage you not to say like, what would you do then? And they like tell you what their plan is. I would encourage you to, if you want, like go to Amy and say, hey, I'm really thinking about getting into first-time homebuyer seminars. This is the plan. What do you think? Like already do some work. Don't expect people are going to do the work for you, but like really, I mean, she would love to give you her opinion about that. Or she'd be like, I love that, but I would also add, have you thought about adding this? Have you thought about having a title person come along with you or whatever? Your stories are your superpower. Tell stories. There is like so much power in telling stories about things that have happened. Do not be afraid of telling those stories. They could be stories of you. They could be stories of your clients. You could talk about, mistakes you've seen clients made. Obviously, you're not going to use their personal information. You could talk about things that were really good that your clients did. What I found is that I just had a house that I listed, and it was a vacant house, and we decided that it just was like one of those really boring houses to look at. So we decided to spend the money to have a stager come in, or virtual staging, or whatever. Or we spent the money to have a stager come in because we knew the demographic would want to see this house furnished. If you don't have the money to do that, we have this other option called Box Brownie. Box Brownie, I mean, maybe you could pass along the cost to them. I mean, that's just going to have to be a business decision you make. Maybe it's something you include as part of your package. And final question. After what you learned today, fire hose, what are you gonna do about it? So before we close, really quick, one thing, we'll just go around the room, just one thing. It doesn't even have to be something you, maybe I just sparked an idea in you and it has nothing to do with what I've said at all. But like, what are you going to do about it moving forward? Because we all take classes, we like write notes, we're like, those are really good ideas. We throw it in the drawer and we do nothing about it. So obviously you get a benefit of being here, even if you choose to do that, which is 2 CE credits. Who cares? But if you could take it and get a double benefit about it, 2 CE credits plus an idea that could help bring you business in the next 12 months, what would that be? Yes.
Check more into Chime. I keep getting the lead sent to my phone, but there's no number attached because I'm not actually part of Chime. So I've missed out on several leads because I can't get a hold of them. So I need to check that out.
Okay, there's like a Facebook group dedicated to Chime. There's like trainers that you can take group training about Chime. Like I know Amy went through a coaching program with Chime that was like a group training. I don't think it was expensive either. And now she's doing one-on-one training with Chime. Sean.
So this is something that was really powerful. It's kind of like an accountability program, but so we teach basically like an investing course, and what we did was we said at the end of the week, take everything that you did that week and give it to your kid and show your kid what you did that week to help pay the bills for the house or to help get them, like put down all your hours and then go to a family member, your husband, your wife, whatever it is, or your kids and say, on Monday, I spent only 3 hours working on our goals, or I spent 12 hours. It'll help you to really like think about, okay, did I really spend enough time doing it? Because you have to show your kid what mommy or daddy did this week. So that was something that I thought was pretty powerful that we had.
What about you, Jessica?
I just need to get better with follow-up in general. So I think I'm gonna start with the tax season.
Yeah, there's some really simple ideas, like you do not have to like overthink this at all.
Right.
I think we get like, we've got to have like this really sexy, like communication, like, you know, this fancy thing, and you really, really do not.
Yeah, I think with the last year, it was just been so insane that, all right, it's closed. Now I've got 5 more houses to show, and that closing just, I've never touched them again.
Yep. I mean, maybe you could call them and say, hey, congratulations on your 2.75 interest rate. This is what your payment would be today.
Right.
So, you know. Anyways. Allison.
Follow-up plan, making sure it makes sense and could be effective. Also making sure my calendar is maybe color coordinated with everything. Start with that, then the follow-up plan. And then make sure my LinkedIn, Zillow, get reviews, make sure that all correlates to one another.
Yep. Kara.
It's kind of similar. I'm gonna go through all of it and kind of try to create my own systems, like from start to finish.
I would just say, like, don't reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of, I mean, like I said, Google, like you could say, what's the best post-closing follow-up system? And you'll get like 500 of them. I mean, and like, don't just use Google, like, I mean, like, you can even use I found like a lot of valuable information about business building on Pinterest. Yeah.
Pictures?
Yep. Because when you click on them, they're usually linked to something too. Katie.
I'm gonna vocalize my niche.
I like that. I like it. I think you could really do well with that, and the use of storytelling. Jim.
I mean, I got a lot of stuff, but I definitely highlighted the closing thing because I've never really put one together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like it's like we always we'll just close with this, because I had like an aha moment with one of the agents that used to work here. And she had been a resident of Eagle River for 35 years. She was super involved with their community, and she was like involved with a lot of things around Eagle River. And she came to me and she said, I need help getting more business. And I said, okay. And I said, well, what's your ideas? And she said, I want to really find a way to like get in contact with incoming soldiers. And I'm like, okay, tell me more about that. She's like, well, like the incoming soldiers, they need like a place to live. And I really know a lot about the Valley and Eagle River, and a lot of them choose to live there, and and I'm like, okay, so you've lived in Eagle River for 35 years, and you are wanting to spend all this effort on getting business from people you do not know, they don't know you, and you have no military affiliation. And she's like, that sounds really dumb. So really like capture business from places you already are, of things we're already doing. You already have closings. You already have people that you could follow up with and touch bases with and provide information with. I'm sure a lot of people that bought a house in the past 2 years would be interested in what's happening in the houses now. Like some people for good reasons, and some people will be celebrating about it. People that don't plan on moving anytime soon are going to be elated that they're, paying the same for their $500,000 house as they would be for their $350,000 house today. Some people might be a little nervous because they were only on like a 5-year plan to be here, and they don't really know what's going to happen and what their options might be. So be the source of the source. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope it was useful to you. And if you want any help, like somebody just to kind of soundboard your ideas off of, I am always here. So thank you guys. Did you guys all get your certificates?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Next week, we're going to be talking about the purchase and sale agreement. Real sexy topic.
Oh, super sexy. About as much fun as house-built surveys, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
2 minutes. In my office, 2 minutes, we'll do the
Oh,
thing, and then you still got a meeting with her?
yes.
Yeah, at 2:30.
Yeah, I just.
I'm like not bragging, but cool. Thank you.
In the military, we would send people off to a top gun school. We call it the fire weapons school, sending a top gun. And they would come back not to be heroes, but to teach us what you learned.
Sure.
And that's what you are.
Oh. I like that.
So this.
I enjoy, like, one of my favorite things to do is like to connect people with other people or
Yeah.
other information that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise be connected with.
You have all kinds of great ideas all the time.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And this is a good class, especially for these students.